Good afternoon, everyone. Hope your tea was refreshing. Welcome once again, and thank you for joining in the last leg of the today's event. My name is Dipakshi, and I'm excited to be your host for this thematic session on role of ranking and accreditation in enhancing quality. We have an exciting lineup of speakers who will share their insight and expertise in education fields. And I will keep the intro short as directed by Anil sir. So to guide us through today's discussion, we have an exceptional moderator, Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhe, who does not need any introduction. Sir is present chairman of National Educational Technology Forum, NETF, and also the chairman of EC National Assessment and Accreditation Council and chairman NBA. Next, our panelists include Dr. S. Vaidya Subramaniam ji. He is presently a Vice Chancellor and Tata Sons Chair Professor of Management at Shastra Deemed University, Thanjavur. Welcome, sir. Next, we have Professor Ujjwala Chakradev ji. She is serving as Vice Chancellor of SNDT Women's University, Mumbai. And we also have Professor Manoj Kumari Tiwari sir ji, who has been founding director of IIM Mumbai since August 2023. So, now taking forward the session. Sorry. Rajneesh ji, thank you so much. I apologize, but thank you so much, sir, for the cooperation. So now, taking forward the session, I would like to request Shri Subrat Pradhan, sir, Director, Ministry of Education. Sir, please felicitate our speakers of today's session with presenting the traditional Angavastra and the planter. Thank you, sir. Also, the sessions have been so tiring, but you are keeping a smile on your face. It's motivating us a lot. Thank you, sir. Dr. S. Vaidya Subramaniam, sir. Thank you for accepting our warmth and hospitality through this traditional Angavastra. Rajneesh, sir. May I please request you all to have a huge round of applause for all the speakers and welcoming them. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. इतने ज्ञानी लोग जब मंच पर आसीन हो तो ज़्यादा बोलना नहीं चाहिए, तो मैं सेशन को हैंड ओवर करती हूँ अनिल सहस्त्रबुद्धे सर को टू लीड इट ओवर टू यू, सर. थैंक यू.
वेरी गुड आफ्टरनून टू ऑल ऑफ यू. सबको नमस्कार. इस अखिल भारतीय शिक्षा समागम के चौथे सालगिरह के आखिरी सत्र में हम आ चुके हैं. इसके पहले दो जो पैनल डिस्कशंस हुए, बहुत ही बेहतरीन तरीके से हमने राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति में जो अलग अलग पहलुओं के बारे में चर्चा की गई है, उसके एक तो इमीडिएट पहले वाले में ग्रॉस एनरोलमेंट रेशो को कैसे बढ़ाना और उसको साइंस का एजुकेशन, स्टेम एजुकेशन कैसे बढ़ाना, उसके ऊपर हुआ. उसके पहले सत्र में हमने देखा कि इंडस्ट्री, इंस्टीट्यूट, कोलैबोरेशन क्या होना चाहिए और उसी तरह कैसे हम एनवायरनमेंट के बारे में जानकारी ज़्यादा करते हुए हमारे शिक्षा नीति में आना चाहिए, उसके बारे में भी देखा. तो जहाँ आवर नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी इज़ हेराल्डेड एज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट ट्रांसफॉर्मेटिव, मोस्ट फॉरवर्ड लुकिंग and creating graduates who are going to be very useful for society and the nation at large, but also taking care of the entire humanity and the planet. And that's why often it is talked about rooted in Indian values. इसके बारे में बार बार शिक्षा नीति में कहा गया है. लेकिन जब ऐसे अलग अलग पहलू जो बहुत ही बेहतरीन है इस शिक्षा नीति में है और सब लोगों ने इसकी सराहना की है, लेकिन जब तक हम कोई भी चीज़ को मेजर नहीं कर सकते हैं, मॉनिटर नहीं कर सकते हैं, तब तक हम उसमें इम्प्रूवमेंट कर नहीं सकते हैं, और जब तक हम इम्प्रूवमेंट नहीं कर सकते हैं हम अच्छाई और अच्छा कर नहीं सकते हैं, और हम एक्सेलेंस या क्वालिटी की तरफ नहीं जा सकते हैं। तो इसलिए भले अनेक पैरामीटर्स को, अनेक चीज़ों को, जैसे मल्टीडिसिप्लिनरिटी, क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग, एनालिटिकल एबिलिटी, ये सारी चीज़ें तो लिखी गई है, लेकिन जब तक हम उसको मेजरमेंट नहीं करेंगे, सेंसिटाइजेशन टुवर्ड्स एनवायरनमेंट को भी इवेल्युएट नहीं करेंगे, तो हम क्वालिटी की तरफ नहीं जा सकेंगे। तो इसलिए तीसरा सत्र जो है ये बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है, रोल ऑफ रैंकिंग एंड एक्रेडिटेशन इन एनहांसिंग द क्वालिटी। तो मैं थोड़ा सा स्टेप बैक करते हुए हमारी रैंकिंग एज वेल एज एक्रेडिटेशन सिस्टम के बारे में थोड़ा सा बताना चाहूँगा। सबसे पहले एक्रेडिटेशन सिस्टम जो भारत देश में आज चल रही है वो दो तरफ की है। एक नैक के तरफ से, नेशनल असेसमेंट एंड एक्रेडिटेशन काउंसिल, 1994 साल से 1994 से चल रही है। सिमिलरली प्रोग्राम एक्रेडिटेशन, नेशनल बोर्ड ऑफ एक्रेडिटेशन भी 1994 से चल रही है। एक तरफ प्रोग्राम एक्रेडिटेशन शुरू होते होते हमको पता चला कि वो AICTE के अंतर्गत थी, उसको बाहर निकालकर एक सेपरेट सोसाइटी बनाकर 2010 से उसको अलग किया गया और एज एन ऑटोनोमस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन वो फंक्शनिंग कर रही है। 2014 साल में इंडिया बिकेम सिग्नेटरी टू द वाशिंगटन अकॉर्ड, और उसके बाद 6 साल के बाद और एक बार रिव्यू करने के बाद और 6 साल के लिए हम वाशिंगटन अकॉर्ड के सिग्नेटरी है। इसका मतलब जिस कॉलेज के प्रोग्राम को एक्रेडिटेशन किया जाता है, उस कॉलेज के उस प्रोग्राम के छात्रों को दुनिया भर में जहाँ जहाँ ऐसे सिग्नेटरी कंट्रीज़ है वहाँ उस डिग्री को इक्विवेलेंट माना जाता है। तो उनको अलग से एग्ज़ाम नहीं देनी पड़ती है जॉब के लिए, ना वहाँ प्रोफेशन को फॉलो करने के लिए कोई एग्ज़ाम देनी पड़ती है, उसको डायरेक्टली इक्विवेलेंट माना जाता है। ऑन द अदर हैंड नैक एक्रेडिटेशन जो उसी साल में शुरू हुआ, उसमें अनेक बदलाव होते आए हैं गत 3 करीब दशकों में, और अभी प्रेजेंट सिस्टम जो है उसमें जिस फॉर्मेट में उसको इवैल्यूएट किया जाता है उसमें 2 तरफ के हैं। एक है DVV, यानी जो भी चीज़ें आपने डॉक्यूमेंटेशन दी हुई है उसको वेरिफिकेशन एंड वैलिडेशन किया जाता है बाय ए थर्ड पार्टी सोर्स, उसका 70% वेटेज है, और पीयर टीम विजिट करने के बाद 30% वेटेज मिलाकर CGPA कैलकुलेट करने के बाद 8 ग्रेड में उसको डिस्ट्रीब्यूट किया जाता है, और एक्रेडिटेशन 5 साल के लिए दिया जाता है। सो दिस होल प्रोसेस इज फॉर द एंटायर इंस्टीट्यूट एज वन एंटिटी, वेर एज फॉर NBA एक्रेडिटेशन इट इज़ फॉर द प्रोग्राम। ये बेसिक डिफरेंस दोनों में है। और इतना होते हुए भी हम इतने दिन से देख रहे हैं, सालों से देख रहे हैं कि एक्रेडिटेशन के लिए हमारी यूनिवर्सिटीज़ करीब 1200 में से 400 यूनिवर्सिटीज़ सामने आ रही है। इसका मतलब करीब 35% से 40% के ऊपर कभी यूनिवर्सिटीज़ एक्रेडिटेशन के लिए नहीं आई है। इसका मतलब 65 से 60% जो भी है नंबर, वो कभी एक्रेडिटेशन के लिए एक बार भी नहीं आया है। जब कॉलेज की स्थिति देखते हैं तो हम करीब 50,000 कॉलेज में से 10,000 कॉलेज के करीब एक्रेडिटेशन के लिए आते हैं। इसका मतलब वो 20% के ऊपर नहीं है। इसका मतलब लार्ज सेक्शंस ऑफ आवर एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस आर नॉट इवन कमिंग फॉरवर्ड फॉर एक्रेडिटेशन। 2 चीज़ें हैं, एक तो ग्रेडेशन सिस्टम होने के वजह से एक तरह का भय यानी फियर दैट वी मे गेट ए पुअर ग्रेड, इस वजह से भी कुछ कॉलेजेस यूनिवर्सिटीज़ नहीं आ रहे। जब नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी के तहत हम ओवरऑल देश की क्वालिटी बढ़ाना चाहते हैं, इम्प्रूव करना चाहते हैं, जब तक वो मेजरमेंट करने के लिए सामने ही नहीं आएंगे तो उनमें कमियां क्या है पता नहीं चलेगा, उनकी अच्छाई क्या है पता नहीं चलेगा, और फिर इसलिए हमारी क्वालिटी बढ़ोतरी होने का संभावना ही नहीं है। दूसरी तरफ जो एडमिशन लेने के लिए छात्र अच्छे कॉलेज को ढूंढते रहते हैं, उनको भी ये 85% करीब कॉलेजेस में कैसी शिक्षा है इसके बारे में पता नहीं है। तो इसलिए एक डॉक्टर राधाकृष्णन कमेटी नाम से कमेटी को मंत्रालय ने बनाया और उनको कहा कि क्या क्या रिफॉर्म्स एक्रेडिटेशन में और रैंकिंग में होने चाहिए उसको हमको बताइए। उस कमेटी ने जनवरी 16 को अपना रिपोर्ट दर्ज किया, उसको हमने एक्सेप्ट करने के बाद नैक में एक एग्जीक्यूटिव कमेटी की मीटिंग हुई। उसमें हमने डिसाइड किया कि उस रिकमेंडेशन को पूरी की तरह पूरी हम लागू करेंगे। उसमें 2 चीज़ों को बताया गया। पहली चीज़ वो है कि हमारा एक्रेडिटेशन सिस्टम जो ग्रेड से दिया जा रहा है, C से लेकर A++ तक, उसमें अननेसेसरी अलग अलग तरीके की कंपटीशन हो रही है, अच्छी कंपटीशन नहीं हो रही थी। तो इसलिए हम चाहते थे कि सारी इंस्टीट्यूशंस बाकी जो सामने आ नहीं रही है भय के वजह से, उनको भी साथ में जोड़ना चाहिए। तो हमारा एक्रेडिटेशन बाइनरी एक्रेडिटेशन होना चाहिए। तो बाइनरी एक्रेडिटेशन का प्रोसेस शुरू हुआ, उसके बारे में हमारे पैनलिस्ट बाद में बताएंगे। तो उसके बाद वैसे ही हमारी ग्लोबल कम्युनिटी में जो इंटरनेशनल इंजीनियरिंग अलायंस है, उन्होंने हमारे ग्रेजुएट एट्रीब्यूट्स को बदला, 12 के जगह में 11 एट्रीब्यूट्स को बनाया। उसके तहत सबसे महत्वपूर्ण जो आज सुबह चर्चा हुई, सस्टेनेबिलिटी, नेट कार्बन ज़ीरो तथा सेंसिटिविटी टुवर्ड्स सोसाइटी, एथिक्स, वैल्यूज़ और इंटरनेशनल एंड नेशनल लॉज को कैसे हम रिस्पेक्ट करते हुए एक्रेडिटेशन करेंगे, उसके बारे में बात बताई गई। उसको हम ग्रेजुएट एट्रीब्यूट्स एंड प्रोफेशनल कॉम्पिटेंसीज 4.0 कहते हैं। आज सुबह ही मंत्री जी ने इस जो सेल्फ असेसमेंट रिपोर्ट की बुकलेट है उसको अनावरण भी किया है। तो इसका मतलब एक्रेडिटेशन में काफ़ी बदलाव हो रहे हैं। और जैसे कि डॉक्टर राधाकृष्णन कमेटी की रिपोर्ट को सामने रखते हुए एक अपेक्स कमेटी बनाई गई, 9 स्पेशल सब्जेक्ट कमेटीज़ बनाई गई। उनका जो रिकमेंडेशन आया उसको हमने लोगों के सामने रखा और अभी तक 5 रीजनल वर्कशॉप करने की शुरुआत की थी, उसमें से 4 वर्कशॉप हो चुके हैं। 5वां वर्कशॉप कल अहमदाबाद में होने जा रहा है। उसके बाद जो भी हमको कंसल्टेशन के बाद हमारे सामने तथ्य और सत्य आएगा, उसको भी अडॉप्ट करते हुए हम उसमें थोड़ा सा बदलाव करके अगले महीने से बाइनरी एक्रेडिटेशन की शुरुआत करते हैं। तो वैसे ही एक्रेडिटेशन के लिए हमने ये भी कहा है कि मैच्योरिटी बेस्ड ग्रेडेड लेवल्स की भी एक्रेडिटेशन होनी चाहिए, उसका भी प्रयास जनवरी तक हम शुरुआत कर देंगे। दूसरी तरफ रैंकिंग, नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशनल रैंकिंग फ्रेमवर्क 2016 से शुरुआत हुई। आज 9वें साल में हम पदार्पण कर चुके हैं। पहले 4 प्रोग्राम 4 डिफरेंट कैटेगरीज से लेते लेते आज 13 कैटेगरीज में हो रहा था। इस साल और 3 कैटेगरीज को इसमें ऐड किया गया है, स्किल यूनिवर्सिटीज़, ओपन यूनिवर्सिटीज़ और स्टेट यूनिवर्सिटीज़। ऐसे लोगों को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा आने के लिए प्रवृत्त करने के लिए NIRF भी कोशिश कर रही है। हम सब देखते हैं कि इस प्रयास के वजह से QS रैंकिंग और टाइम्स हायर एजुकेशन रैंकिंग में भी हमारी संस्थाओं का ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा स्थान प्राप्त होना शुरू हुआ है और हमारे पैनलिस्ट इसके ऊपर भी चर्चा करेंगे। और सबसे महत्वपूर्ण, अलग अलग राज्यों में भी कुछ उनका भी ग्रेडेशन सिस्टम शुरुआत किया है, स्पेशली गुजरात और केरला ने। बाकी राज्यों को भी ऐसा कुछ अपने अपने राज्यों में करना चाहिए ताकि नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशनल रैंकिंग फ्रेमवर्क और उसके अलावा इंटरनेशनल रैंकिंग में भी हमारा पार्टिसिपेशन और बढ़ेगा। तो ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण सत्र है जिसमें हमारी क्वालिटी को एनहांसमेंट करने के लिए क्या क्या चीज़ें कर सकते हैं उसके बारे में होने वाला है। और हमारे यहाँ 4 दिग्गज जो वेरी वेल नोन एमिनेंट एकेडमिशियंस हैं, उनके बारे में ज़्यादा नहीं बात करूँगा, एक के बाद एक को बुलाऊँगा। सर्वप्रथम डॉक्टर मनोज तिवारी जो IIM मुंबई के डायरेक्टर है, इंस्टीट्यूट निटी नाम से प्रचलित था, उसको अभी भी IIM का दर्जा मिला है। और वैसे ही वो साथ साथ में उसी आसपास एक और इंस्टीट्यूट, टाटा इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ सोशल साइंसेस के इंचार्ज वाइस चांसलर भी है। और ऐसी छोटी छोटी जगहों में से अपना कारोबार शुरू करते हुए, नेरेस्ट ईटानगर में मेरे साथी थे, वहाँ से लेकर अलग अलग जगहों में जाते हुए एक उच्च स्थान तक पहुँचे हुए एक आदमी जिनको ग्राउंड रियलिटीज़ के बारे में काफ़ी पता है, वो नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशनल रैंकिंग फ्रेमवर्क के बारे में बताए और 10 से 12 मिनट में अपना वक्तव्य होना चाहिए, ऐसे मैं आपको अनुरोध करता हूँ। तिवारी जी।
माननीय चेयरमैन साहब, उच्च शिक्षा अपने शिक्षा मंत्रालय के सचिव श्री संजय मूर्ति साहब एंड अन्य अधिकारीगण, यहाँ उपस्थित लगभग कई विश्वविद्यालयों के वाइस चांसलर्स और डायरेक्टर्स। सो आज बड़े सौभाग्य की बात है कि मतलब यहाँ पे हमें अपने ही देश द्वारा बनाई गई एक ऐसी रैंकिंग पद्धति के बारे में बताना है जो पहले कई तरह के विवादों में, मतलब जब ये NIRF नहीं था तो कुछ मैगजीन्स वगैरह इसके ऊपर काम करते थे और जो उनको समझ में आता था उस तरह की रैंकिंग करते थे। लेकिन रैंकिंग के बारे में मैं एक चीज़ बताना चाहता हूँ आपको कि बेसिकली रैंक डज नॉट कन्फर एनी प्रिविलेज और गिव पावर, बट इट इम्पोजेज रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी। सो इस सेंस के साथ में रैंकिंग को थोड़ा समझना चाहिए। और वैसे भी देखिए, पुरानी बात है कि अगर हम पहले किसी के बारे में बहुत अच्छा है, सुंदर है, ब्यूटीफुल है, तो क्या होता है, एक भाव तो लगता है, लेकिन एक नंबर बताने से क्या होता है कि आपको स्केलिंग लगती है कि किस रेंज में हम पहुंच गए हैं। वैसे दोज हु आर फ्रॉम डिसीजन साइंस दे नो वेरी वेल कि देयर आर मेनी वेज टू एक्सप्रेस द वेरिएबल्स। उसमें कुछ सब्जेक्टिव है, कुछ ऑब्जेक्टिव है, कुछ there are some fuzzy variables are there, some stochastic variables are there, some probabilistic variables are there, but here we are basically talking about only two, quantitative and qualitative. So NIRF is such a powerful ranking method where we have most of the variables are quantitative in nature. There is only scope of very few where 10 or 15% subjectivity is there. Rest of things are dependent on the hard data that people have to capture and put into the ranking framework actually. So coming to the some discussions on that point. So next slide please. So here you can see the whole NIRF ranking has been devised based on the altogether 5 parameters. So next slide please. Thank you. So these 5 parameters are teaching learning ratio, so these 5 parameters, if you can see, they are teaching learning ratio, then we have a research and professional practices, then we have a graduate outcomes, then we have a outreach and inclusivity, and then perception. So before that actually just I want to switch over that there are many areas which NIRF covers, but many ranking agencies, they don't cover so much vast area that includes all the universities, colleges, engineering, law, architecture, planning. So in QS, if you go there, subject-wise ranking, but here we have a very elaborate way of ranking by similar kind of parameters, which I have just mentioned, that teaching, learning and resources. And then we have RP, that is called research and professional practices, then graduate outcomes, and then outreach and inclusivity and perception. So you can see their percentage also, that how much actually is divided. So highest weight of 30% is given to teaching and learning practices. And then 30% weight is also given to research and professional practice. Then graduate outcomes given 20%. And outreach and inclusivity given 10% and 10% perception. So now under this you can see what are the data we have to capture, and then based on that total score is to be computed. You can clearly see that here except perception most of the things are data driven, hard data driven actually. So coming to the each parameter that we have taken factors like say TLR. Under the TLR there are 5 subheads, 4 subheads actually. You can see student strength, faculty student ratio, combined metric for faculty with PhD, and also we can see that the financial resources and their utilization, so online education. So most of the recent things are also being included as one of the factor to find out what is the teaching learning outcome. Similarly, go to the research here. So we have given combined metrics for the publications and also citations. Citation comes under the quality publications. So like UN journals and all those things, they comes under the citations. and then IPR and patents also taken into account in the system. And thereafter, we have a footprint of the projects and professional practices, executive development programs, which are very much part of the RP. Then we have metric for the university examinations, like 60% weightage is given to the graduates who are passing, and then metric for the PhD students who are coming out of the system. And then we have percentage of the outreach and inclusivity, which is very much a societal issues, and this all have been given a place in the NIRF ranking. You can clearly see here, there is percentage of the students from different states studying into the university, then how many of them are belong to the women sections, and what are their percentage, then economically and socially challenged students also, and facilities for the physically challenged. So all these factors have been taken into account in the outreach and inclusivity component of the NIRF ranking. And perception, again, it's a 10, and here it is divided into academic peers and employers actually. So now you can clearly see when you talk about teaching learning ratio, and then there are different kind of data we have to capture. Here I would like to sound to the most of the persons that this would be done year-long exercise. Otherwise, firefighting during the time of NIRF entry will actually many institutions lose their good rank because they don't collect the data properly. Because I am heading the two institutions, I am seeing in one institution, it was very clearly visible because their data collection was not a good exercise. So that is why sometimes their rank goes very low. So data pertaining to the number of full-time faculty, then data pertaining to the faculty qualification, faculty student ratio, and then details of the adjunct and visiting faculties. Even professor of practice also can be included into this kind of things. And then student details, the total number of enrolled UG, PG, and PhD students, then different kind of learning resources, that what are the courses we offer, number of the quality of the physical resources like library and other things, digital resources. So they all have the place into the teaching learning component. And if you see just few comparison I have shown, that here you can see clearly that SS, that is the simply student strength, which has given 20 marks, and online education, which is given 15 marks. So, and then total score, if you can see. So they are measured between the 20 and 15. The different institutions we have just captured. So you can see that how their value varies, and based on that, how actually this TLR affect the other component of the ranking actually. Then we have research and professional practices. So here the research output primarily, it is to be based on the number of quality publications in the peer-reviewed journals, particularly Cuban journals. Then citations and other impact factors are Samagam factors which are there for the measuring the citations. Then patents and innovations which are there based on number of patents filed and granted. Then details of the technology transfer and commercialization of the research. Then research and funding, basically how much funding we received from the government and industry sources. And then professional practices actually, like what are the different kind of collaborative arrangements we done, and participation of the professional bodies and the organization. So these are all has been taken into account, and then we have here plotted a curve to show that how the TLR and RPC combinedly they decide the ranks actually, sir. And later on we will show in the QS also this will have a very great impact, and many universities they have improved their ranking just by harping on the research practices and publications and citations actually. So these are the very two important parameters here. Then coming to the graduate outcomes actually. So in graduate outcomes, what are the things we capture? We capture here the placement data, that is the number of and percentage of the students placed through the campus recruitment, and then average and median salary packages, and the number of students opting for the higher studies, startups, and all other things actually. Then expansion of examination and the results like percentage and academic performance metric for the various programs, and then details of the student progression rates from one academic year to the next. So this thing has been captured under the graduate outcomes. And here if you can see that metric for the university exams and metric for the number of PhD students, then the different institutions just sample we have taken, how they vary, it has been shown here. The data set for the NIRF ranking also includes the details about the diversity factors, like how many the women are there and what are the, like say, number of students from different regions, graduate diversity, representation of the students from the various socio-economic backgrounds, and then policies and initiatives for social inclusion and support, scholarship, because how many scholarships you are giving to the different community students, they are part of the data actually that requires in the NIRF. And then community engagement, like details of the outreach programs and community services that institutions used to do. So such kind of data is captured under the outreach activities. And based on this, we have, if you see, altogether, the NIRF institutions, here, those who are under the NIRF, you can see top performing bodies, they should have consistently investment in the research, strong industry linkages, diverse and inclusive environment, and high quality faculty and positive perceptions. So these are the some of the things. And then how NIRF ranking has impacted the society. The main impact has been there. They have improved their ranking in the different areas and improved their image among the society people, particularly among the students. And then student choices. Now this vary basically, many times they see that what is the NIRF ranking of the institutions, and accordingly they take a decision for the admissions. And then many policy formulations where the regulatory bodies can formulate that, okay, the NIRF institutions have this much, so they can decide many other grant and situations also, like what we have seen in the US. Earlier the NSF has many times decided the kind of granting bodies and funding based on their rankings actually. So question is, based on this, we have some very interesting features about the NIRF that I can say, that it's a comprehensive evaluation policy. It does not depend on only very broad component on the reputation and survey. Here only 10% is there, remaining is data driven, which, and also data is so transparent that each and every institution is providing their data into their website. And you compare to other ranking procedures where it is not properly shown to the stakeholders. But here one can see also that what data has been inputted by the particular institutions. And particularly it's multi-criteria decision-making systems where there is some sort of always weightage factor. So this weightage is to be decided by simulating the different kind of data that we are having. And as we know that many times it is very popular saying about the different models, that all models are wrong, but some are useful. So this was George Box, one of the very famous statistician. So NIRF, RQS, they are a kind of model actually. But they are quite useful by combining so many factors and variables to come out of with one index and one number actually, sir. So based on this actually, some of the key features that I want to say about the NIRF ranking is they keep the number of faculties uniform, please. This is one of the very good messages and analysis comes out of that. Improve the number of visiting and adjunct faculties and professor practices. Increase the operational expenses and capital expenses per student actually. And organize seminars, conference, workshops. Improve the institution's infrastructure and campus facilities. Encourage faculty and students to publish in high impact peer reviewed journals. And encourage faculty to conduct executive development program, management development program, so that more industry connect will be the outcome of this. And improve the female students' registrations into the system. Increase the regional diversity, means students from other states also they can join and study there. Then strengthen your industry linkage and collaborations by inviting them for different kind of workshop, conferences, webinars, seminars, etc. And promote social responsibility and many kind of service learning initiatives. So I think with these measures, the overall NIRF ranking can be seen. Say there is a data-driven modeling, as well as that it has a very, very transparent systems they used to follow, and very few percentage of the component for the perception, which is totally, depends on the choice and opinions. Most of the things are data-driven. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Tiwari ji. Next in line of next panelist is Professor Rajnish Kumar. He is professor of chemical engineering. So I think he should bring in what is that chemistry which works for getting QS rankings for IITs and some of the best institutions.
Okay, thank you, Professor Sasabudde, and thank you everyone for coming and listening to all of us over here. Can you go to the next presentation? That's the second listed in that folder. Yeah, so I will just skip this slide and also skip this slide because I have been told that I have to finish it within time. Obviously, this also I will come back, but what I want to start with is this, that, oh, this pointer does not work. Okay, so NIRF is actually, as you have just seen, is a more comprehensive ranking, and the biggest difference between NIRF ranking and QS ranking is the component of industrial research, translational research, CSR research, which is completely missing in QS ranking. Okay, QS ranking primarily looks into your publications. So what I am going to tell you is that if you have to improve, you will have to improve on your publication. That is something, there is no getting away from that. So you will have to improve your publication. But what exactly QS tells you is that there are these parameters which is academic reputation, employer reputation, and employment outcome. These three are long-term parameters. Basically, you cannot change it overnight. It will take you 20, 30, 40 years perhaps to basically improve some of these parameters. The reason is because they are basically based on your recall, memory recall. So if the questions given to a person is that, which institute comes to your mind when you look at, when you think about India? So obviously IIT Bombay will come to the mind of most of the people, and then after that it becomes IIT Delhi, IIT Madras and all others. So this is a recall value. So if your institute does not come into the top 10 recall value, you will lie at the lower end. So if you see, there is another thing which I wanted to talk about over here. If I look into the, one of the perception is that because of the reputation, our ranking goes down, but that is not true. Yeah, I'll take this mic, sorry, because without a pointer it becomes difficult. Hello, yeah. So now you look into the employer point of IIT Bombay and they are ranked 63 in the world. So if this ranking was just 100% based on employer reputation survey, then IIT Bombay will be 63 ranked. It basically means, right now IIT Bombay is 120 around. So it basically means that if this employer reputation quotient goes up, their rank will improve. It's not going to go down. So it depends on which institute you belong to. Also, if you talk about IIT Delhi, they are ranked 73 just based on employer reputation. So it's not necessary that this employer reputation and academic reputation is bringing you down. Actually, it's helping you, but it depends where you belong. If you belong to the top 10 institute, it helps you. But if you do not belong to that top 10 institute based on the recall value of a person, then it will not help you. So this is something which but this is certainly not going to change overnight. It will take a lot of time because MIT will remain the top institute in people's mind for 20 years, 30 years. It will take really long for people to accept that Tsinghua is the top institute now. You see, this is the recall value. You cannot really improve that. For example, if someone asks in Singapore which will be the top institute, there is only two institutes, either NUS or NTU. So both of these institutes will get really high value, 80%, 90% of this. So this is why their ranking will always be higher. So this is something which one always has to understand. Now employment outcome is a little complex. I don't know, QS were a little confused. This is why they were basically not sure what they should be doing it, because I'll show you what happens with employment outcome. The employment outcome, you see there is two factors. One is alumni impact index adjusted times ln of graduate employment rate. So if your graduate employment rate is 100%, ln of 100 you will get 4.6. If your graduate employment rate is 50%, you are going to get 3.6, 3.9 roughly. So there is not much of a difference. What exactly makes this difference is that alumni impact index adjusted. And where they calculate it from? They calculate it from the list you see over here. Forbes 30, Forbes 30, Forbes middle. So all these are something which is not heard in India. So this is something which people get really bothered about. And this is one of the reasons all those people who are going to do better in employment reputation, they are also going to do better in employment outcome. Because that perception, the alumni data, which actually gets gathered from employer reputation, also gets carried over there. So if you are not in top 10, you will get affected there also. Now the remaining parts, which is basically faculty-student ratio, citations per faculty, international research network, and sustainability, all four of these parameters, which is roughly 45% of the total 100%, you can basically change for within a shorter period of time. So this is why I basically break down this ranking into something which is really changes in really long time. You can't really do a big change there in shorter period, but there are at least 45 to 50% where you can basically do a lot of contribution and you will be able to improve your ranking. Now when we talk about these numbers, you see the paper, the publications, one important point is the publication is not what you have done 10 years back. The publication only gets counted what you have done up to 6 years back. So for example, the publication of 2019 to 2023 only matters for the ranking, that remaining 45%. What you have done in 2018 does not really matter. So please be aware of this. Only 5 years of publication and citations of these papers, not the previous papers, citations of these papers for last 6 years will be counted for ranking. It's very important. So now if you are hanging on to your old paper, if you are getting your old paper cited by someone, it's not going to help you. Please be aware. So this 5 years is what is very important. Please keep that in mind. Okay, let's move on to international relation network. Now this is something people would say that, okay, international relation network will improve if I improve my research collaboration with international institutes. So I'll show you a data. Now if you look into this data, you see this yellow line is for IIT Kharagpur. If you see this, their international collaboration is 20% 2015, and by 2022 they have improved a little bit more. Whereas ISC numbers are consistently higher compared to IIT Kharagpur. But then if you go and look into the data over here, what is they have got? So IIT Kharagpur over here, which is this 69.3, and the ISC data is 39.1. 30-point difference, even though their international collaboration is much more, almost 20% more than IIT Kharagpur. So please be aware that this number is coming from this relation over here, IRN index. What it basically looks into, it looks into your collaborative work which is consistent with one particular group. If you have worked with one group in an institute, tomorrow you are doing again with the same person, it will count. But if you move to someone else, then that research will not count. So please be aware that you should have a collaboration consistently with the same group. Otherwise, it is not going to count. And what counts? In last 5 years, you should have at least 3 papers from the same sets of people, from the same institute. Otherwise, this number will not count. Please be aware. So if you keep moving from jumping from one person to the other person, this is not going to count in your international relation network. This is very important, and please keep that in mind. Here again, there is a complex equation. L is in the numerator, P is in the denominator. You have to look into this also. I don't want to go in detail because I don't have much time. Moving on. So what I'm trying to say, that the short-term parameters which you can certainly improve are the research performance. And what is research performance? I'll give you an example of this institute here. This is just a 10-year-old institute. It started in China, some southern technology institute, something like that. You will see this, their employer reputation, academic reputation obviously has to be poor because they are just 10-year-old institute. They also do not have a lot of international collaboration and all this sustainability, and all of these are poor. But where they are very good is these 2 parameters which you can control. Which are these 2 parameters? These parameters are citations per faculty and then faculty-student ratio. If just by controlling these 2 parameters within 10 years, they have reached to a point 34.6, which basically means that it is now competing with institutes like IIT Madras. So you see, in 10 years, how do you reach to IIT Madras? You see a very clear example. Now, if you want to do this, obviously you will have to have international faculty. This is why their number is little large there. You can do with domestic faculty also. Many Chinese university has done it. They have chosen to basically attract few foreigners. But even with their domestic faculty, you should be able to do that. The other data which I want to tell you, look at Purdue, which is currently ranked 90. and IIT Madras, which is IIT Bombay, which is ranked 120 roughly. You see their employer reputation is actually almost as good as IIT Bombay. This number 63.5, which is academic reputation, is slightly better than IIT Bombay. But this slightly better, I'll tell you why they are slightly better. All other parameter also. So what I'm trying to say that you will have to focus specifically on each of these parameters. You can do a small Excel programming to know what points you need this parameter to reach a particular data. Because it's no 30%, 20%, 15%. So you can do this kind of predictive analysis to see in each of these parameters where I should be to basically attain a particular ranking, and then work for that particular data. Again, when we talk about quality of publication or quality of research, there are many things which comes into picture. Publication count, whether that is quality. Citation count, whether that is quality. If I improve my citation, that is enough. Or citations per paper is more important. Or H index is more important. Or field weighted citation index. Someone was talking about THE ranking. THE ranking takes field weighted citation impact very seriously. So that is also something which is then publication of as a corresponding author is important or not. Actually, it's not. And so on and so forth. So there are many other data which you'll have to worry about. I'll tell you what exactly is the publication count data. This data is for China, India, South Korea, and United States. You see, China has basically produced the largest number of papers. US has been the leader, but now China has overtaken them. South Korea is basically almost flat, and India is now improving. So what I'm trying to say that we publish sufficient papers now. What we have to focus on is the quality, and where is that? The data comes over here, you see here. US has been publishing almost 65 to 70%, the entire country, it's not about one institute, the entire country averaged over publishes 65 to 70% of their paper in Q1 journals, okay? China in 2003 were also somewhere over there, around 30%. Like any other institute like India or South Korea, but then you see they have also improved, South Korea has improved. However, India still publishes roughly 37% of its paper in Q1 journals. So if you are publishing only 37% papers in Q1 journal as a whole, we cannot really improve. We have to improve our quality. So we have all done good in quantity, but we have to improve quality. Now when we talk about quality, what matter most for the ranking? So I did an analysis for 200 institute. I'm not bringing all the 200 here, but H5 index, which I talked about, that the 5 years paper and the citations of these papers in that 6 years period, H5 index matters the most. H5 index, you see here, Tsinghua University has an H5 index of roughly 300. They are ranked 25, currently 20. Purdue University is slightly below with H5 index of 175 roughly, they are 99. Zhejiang University in China, again in 10 years they have improved so much. They are 44, and IIT Delhi is 175 in this data, but later they have improved to 150. This is 1-year-old data. So H5 index is very important. Today I will not discuss how to do it, but what I am trying to tell you that if you have to reach a value of 315 like Tsinghua University, which is ranked 2025 in H5 index, it basically means your 315 papers should be of that quality that each of these papers have got 60 citations per year on average. Now, how do you get it? You get it by employing more number of faculty, that is first. Working in an area which basically gets cited more, which is very relevant. Don't work in an area which is not relevant, then obviously it will not get cited. So all this example, managing your faculty recruitment, the research area which you should or institute should be working on is very important. Otherwise, you are not going to reach 315, neither you are going to reach 175, because typically you might have 1-2 such faculty who every paper will get cited more than 60 times per year. You cannot have 300 such faculty. So be very careful. If you have to target that, you'll have to target this. There is no other option. This is the only way you have to reach there. And does not matter which ranking we are talking about. Any ranking you talk about, you will have to basically look into some of these numbers. But is H5 index alone important? What is the data? Okay, no, I'll just go to the data. I'll not give any preaching today. So let's move on to the data. If that is the case, Anna University over here, you will see today has highest H5 index in India. Are they the top institute? They are not. Why they are not? I'll show you why they are not. You see, they started in 2007, very limited number of papers. They the number of publication huge, but then their quality has started going down. You see, till 2015, their quality was almost like not even 20% of their paper was in Q1. Now they have improved little bit. So it's very important that when you are jumping, if you are trying to publish too many papers, don't lose the focus on the quality, because if your focus on the quality goes down, your ranking is going to go down. On the other hand, you see China, they started the same place, China, the Tsinghua University, started at the same place, the same time. You see they have crossed US today. And this is why their ranking has gone up. So quality is something which you cannot compromise. Even if you have to publish more paper, focus on the quality. If you are not focusing on the quality, more paper alone will not really help you. What is quality again? So why I'm saying that you have to publish in Q1 journals. The reason is very simple. You see there is citations per paper over here in y-axis. In the x-axis is the quality of the journal, 90 percentile, top 90% journal, basically top 10% journal. That 90 means. It clearly shows you that if you are publishing your paper in the top 10% journal, you are getting the maximum citations per paper. It's obvious. If you are publishing a paper in very poor journal, no one will cite you, because they will be afraid that if I cite, I will also tag that I am poor. Okay, so everyone will only cite the papers which are published in good quality journal. If you have not published your paper in good quality journal, please forget the citations. And that basically means that the number in the denominator will increase, because it's a citations per paper. So every paper you are publishing which is not getting cited is pulling down your citations per case. So this is important for everyone to understand where. Okay, so I'll go quickly now. Citations per paper data is fine. I'll just quickly, one data I will show you. If you look into this data, one difference here is, this is the data of 2000 to 2020. You see Tsinghua University is continuously improving, and all other universities pretty much going down. So there is a lot of learning in all of these. How do you basically cite your paper? How do you basically increase the faculty count and all those things? Not for today, but for some other day. Citations per faculty, which is used in QS ranking, the faculty count basically gets a little difficult to get. So this is why I'm bringing author count. Citations per author. And if you see here, none of the IITs are better than anyone else. They are very similar. The good point here is that all IITs are at the same place. Does not matter whether you are from this institute or that institute, the citations per paper count is very similar. Obviously, we are below Purdue and Tsinghua, and if you have to improve your ranking, citations per author, citations per paper has to go up. There is no other option. The last point which I want to talk about is that please choose your area. Arts and humanities paper, you publish 1% paper, it will be equivalent to 15% of citations. Okay? So arts and humanities, we are pretty poor there. We don't publish too much there. Social science, if you publish 6 papers, then it becomes 12 papers, 11 papers. In engineering, it's roughly 1 to 1 in all other, but in bio, it is half. So all this is important, and this is where India lies in terms of what is the strength. Overall, this is the India data. If you see here, reduce inequality, health and well-being, gender equality, poverty, strong institution, all these are our areas where we have to improve. If we improve on these areas, citations are going to certainly go up. And for that, what you'll have to do, you'll have to basically collaborate. Within India, I looked into the data of, this is the top data is JNU, the other data University of Calcutta. They are in North, and they are pretty good in their social sciences research. The institutes which are in South, which are Anna University and University of Bombay, Mumbai, you see they are pretty good in technology aspect. So if these two institutes come together and collaborate, you will be able to basically do a much better job. So thank you. I'm going really fast, but sorry, there are a lot of things to be discussed. We can discuss more.
Thank you, Professor Rajneesh Kumar. As said, he really brought the chemistry out of this whole ranking process and how it has to be done. Our next panelist is Dr. Vaidya Subramaniam. He is the Vice Chancellor of Sastra University, and most importantly, he keeps writing in Indian Express quite often about education. And now he's talking about our new system of accreditation by NAC. Vaidya is a doctor in our Ayurvedic system. So he's going to doctor us about how accreditation has to be improved in different places in order to get our quality to be improved. Vaidya.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished panelists, and distinguished members of the audience. I'm extremely happy to again be part of ABSS. It's a hat trick of sorts, the third time. This session predominantly is on how ranking and accreditation is so essential to increase the quality of higher education, while ranking has been so adequately dealt by the previous two speakers. I am limiting myself only with accreditation. As the chairman pointed out in his opening remarks, the age of accreditation in India, both NBA and NAC, is almost the same. 1994 it started. And the age of ranking, in contrast, is a recent phenomenon. But data shows that there is more interest level to participate in ranking than in accreditation. So I just want to test my hypothesis just by a mere show of hands, those who represent different universities and higher education institutions. How many of you are participating in NIRF? Just show of hands. If you're not participating, don't lift your hands. Nobody is going to watch you. Yeah. Then how many of you participate and got yourself accredited? See, it's a lesser number. Now, the reason is now the accreditation as a phenomenon, it's a process that you have to endure to ensure that the systems are in place. And it is not that I am saying that NIRF or ranking is a easier process. Because it is an annual exercise, you tend to also get an opportunity to again revisit your data, whereas accreditation is not an annual exercise. It happens once in 5 years, and if you want to better, then after a limited period, you can better your grades. But historically, if you look at the evolution of the accreditation process, and that's where I want to highlight, is gone are the days where the process itself was so difficult. Initially, you had to spend so much time, take printouts, multiple copies, take them. Actually, you had to lift it and run to Bangalore, submit it, and then a visit team is constituted, they come, and it was kind of a process that many of them felt is taking a lot of time, and that's why the policymakers also decided that let's punish the institutions once in 5 years. So you do it once in 5 years, get yourself accredited. But now the new process, after Dr. Radhakrishnan's report was submitted, which was accepted by NAC, the new process has actually ironed out most of the difficulties. And one of the significant decisions that they have taken is to split this entire accreditation process, as the chairman already highlighted, into a binary accreditation and then the MBG, about which I will talk a little later, which is more a maturity-based grading system. Now, the binary accreditation is, I think, a low-hanging fruit. In fact, I was part of one of the UGC committees to understand why the accreditation is actually, the number of institutions coming forward for accreditation is not that encouraging. One of the largest reasons was that the fear factor for institutions who are already accredited, once the accreditation norms changed, they thought that they will actually score poorer than where they are now. So that's for institutions who are already accredited. And for the institutions who have not been accredited, the fear factor was more pronounced because they did not want to end up in a scenario where they participate in the entire process and then finally when the results are announced, not accredited. It's a big embarrassment for the institution. So that fear factor had to be addressed adequately, and this binary accreditation, in my view, has addressed that fear factor for the simple reason that the binary accreditation has only 10 metrics, 10 attributes on which these institutions will be graded. I was also part of that exercise where we have made sure that the binary accreditation process, the attributes, the 10 parameters and the related attributes, which is also less than 60, 59 to be exact. It is not over 100 as it used to be. Now it is just less than 60, 59. These parameters have a minimalist benchmark. So that actually eases out the fear factor. In fact, I jokingly used to say that institutions have to really work hard not to get accredited in the binary accreditation process. So it is as simple as that, that if you just focus on the real purpose of why you are there in the higher education orbit, from a binary accreditation perspective, it is very easy to be accredited. I'm talking about the relative ease as it was before. So binary accreditation is a welcome move for those first timers to get your institutions accredited, because that is one starting symbol of an excellence that you are capable of delivering. The next is MBG, which is on a 5 level, that is aligned with the NEP 2020 architecture of what type of higher education institutions are going to be, whether you're going to be a standalone teaching institution, degree granting institutions, or teaching institution capable of doing little research, or a research institution come teaching, or the Meru types, other types of institutions. And this is how I think moving forward, since the parameters are still work in process, this is how it will be aligned, so that institutions also, when they do their IDP, you will know what you want to be, and then you participate in that level of the MBG graded accreditation models. So this perfectly aligns with your capabilities than to not know where you are. Initially, when we did not have these levels but only grades with scores, it was just a hit and run operation. Everybody thought they are best, they deserve 3.5 and above. Everybody thought, they are good like anybody else. But here is a very clear case, and when MBG is actually published as a manual, then you will realize that you will do first a self-introspection, understand what type of institution you are, while your IDP says what you want to be. Then from what you are, you get accredited at different levels, and then once you achieve that one level of accreditation, move towards what you want to be, then that will be reflected in your MBG as you progressively move. Now to do both, I'm just going to give 6 suggestions, not 6 suggestions, 6 dimensions that are required to actually catalyze this entire accreditation process. First, sensitization. It is very, very important that these new processes reach all types of institutions. So though UGC, AICTE, these stakeholders are taking enough measures to ensure that every institution, every university knows this binary accreditation process, it is also the equal responsibility of other statutory bodies like NCTE or Bar Council of India or Council of Architecture. They should also take this message and make sure those institutions that are under their ambit of control, they should also be sensitized on this. After sensitization is participation. Now, since it is very binary, the data entry process is going to be very simple. Everything is online. You don't have to really prepare all those papers. It's very simple process. The institutions themselves, after participating, they will understand that this process is so simple. So even the agencies, statutory bodies, as well as other agencies should encourage institutions to participate after creating this sensitization. The third important thing, which is very crucial, is transition. There are many institutions who are already accredited by NAAC with good grades. But now if MBG has to be adopted by those institutions, I have a request also that the transition plan also has to be planned carefully. For those institutions that already have a high grade in the existing accreditation system, and if that's valid for 5 years, what is the incentive for those institutions to move to MBG? And this transition phase is very, very important, and such type of institutions have to actually put their thought processes, and those policymakers must also understand what is going to be the incentive for these types of institutions to immediately also adopt to MBG, because they are not going to come to binary accreditation because they are already beyond that. The fourth is the transformation that you can bring about, and that's what I related with your IDP. Once you get into the MBG mode, or once you get binary accredited, the next logical step is to see whether I can aim for the first level of MBG. So that inherently builds a kind of a transformation culture within the institution, so that every time that you participate in the accreditation process, you are ready to add incremental scores that will either push you from binary to MBG 1 or 2. Sometimes if you're doing exceptionally well, that your transformation system is so good, you might also end up getting an MBG 3 level accreditation and so forth. So through transformation, it is left to institutions like you, because NEP 2020 has given you certain levels of autonomy with which you can bring about certain improvisations. The fifth one is globalization, and that's where I want to talk about how NBA has actually built a context of globalization. Ever since it signed the Washington Accord, today the chairman talked about the GAPC 4.0. It is aligning our engineering programs towards certain global benchmarks which are just beyond all those, the approval norms and standards, these are all minimalist. Whereas the NBA accreditation standards are to a maximalist approach, and this GAPC 4.0 is in the context of what is happening at a global level amongst engineering institutions. So I think that also inherently gives you certain global best practices available in the Indian geography. The last thing is competition. Now here I'm just thinking a little radically. This accreditation is for universities, institutions affiliated to universities. But with the advent of NCVET, and in the presence of Dr. Kalse I am saying this, there are going to be other entities who need not be universities, who will not be engineering colleges or colleges affiliated to universities, but will do the type of work that universities and colleges are doing, because NCVET is giving them that approval. Now they are also going to give credits, and once NCRF is going to be adopted, the competitive landscape of higher education is completely going to change. Now students will ask the question, why should I go to a university, why should I go to a college? Here is another entity that is approved by NCVET, which is also giving me the same credits, which I can use it later in the NCRF and join some other institution at some point of time in my career. So when the competition is also getting little changed and not the same way that it is used to be, it makes more sense to ask the questions ourselves as institutional leaders. We have to get ourselves accredited, because that is the first step forward that you can take to make sure that you deliver the learning outcomes, and it's outcome-based accreditation that's the essence of this entire process. And you take it from me, unless you are accredited, and if you have a laid-back attitude that your college, your university is going to give you approval year after year, your university status is permanent, but we don't need accreditation, then over a period of time, the fact that you're a college, you're a competent authority to give a degree, all that is going to get marginalized, because there are other better ways where a student can get themselves certified as those who are better seekers of knowledge. So please be cautious of that and get your acts together. And also, I have a piece of a little suggestion to other statutory bodies also. This is not an exercise that is done in isolation by UGC and AICT alone. It is also the equal responsibility of other statutory bodies like, as I mentioned before, NCTE or Bar Council of India or Council of Architectures. All of them also have to marshal their resources under their command and tell institutions under their control to gravitate towards accreditation as a mandatory minimum to begin with, and you will see the results showing up naturally in the years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Vaidya. In fact, accreditation is a continuous improvement process. It is not that one time we got accredited and forget about it. You have to continuously improve upon what you are. Our last panelist is Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev. Ujjwala name itself is, we want to take Bharat to Ujjwalata. So therefore, I would request how tier 2, tier 3 rural remote area institutions are to be addressed in order to get accreditation as well as ranking. Ujjwala, please.
Thank you, sir. Can we have the last presentation, please? We were, since this session started, talking about that how to improve our accreditation. But we all are aware India is a vast country, diverse country, and deep into the rural areas also there is a need for the education to reach. How do we address their issues? How do we reach them? People are not coming forward to get accredited. There are issues. They are scared of coming. Sometimes they do not know about it. There are some special institutions like mine, women institutions. We have our peculiar requirements and pointers where we should be accredited in that particular manner. There could probably be other institutions, like now we are talking about the distinguished universities. Particularly in that manner, some institutions might have their own particular qualifications or qualities. We heard national NIRF ranking systems. We also heard about binary system, and most of even my doubts, which I will be presenting in this presentation, probably are resolved by this binary system. But still, there are so many issues which our rural India is facing, and all those I will not be able to mention over here. But if somebody is from the rural area, probably would know that we can talk about it in our question answer sessions. Current status, I'm focusing on women here right now, particularly because I am comfortable with this data. And this is a particular data of women, status of women in nation's economy. As well as we all know that the contribution of women in the entire economy and everywhere, of course, has to increase. Even if the GER has to be increased, then the participation and education of women has to be improved. How do we do it? Education empowers them is known fact. But these are this is the current status of women education and literacy, which was taken up in 2021 by the institution Drishti. And these are the facts. I will not go into those right now. My topic starts here. And here, the need for women universities, or when we talk about these new universities, need for these universities, automatically actually I am talking about the need for the going to the rural areas also. Support and scaffolding schemes for women are required, is okay. Environment fostering leadership and qualities, role of decision making will improve with this kind of universities. Basically, summing up all these criteria, what is the need? There are certain communities which actually need only women universities, is a fact. The ambience and the environment which is given in the women institutions is particularly required for some of the institutions, some of the women. Many women leave out and they want to come back. So they are comfortable in a particular ambience and the environment. These are some of the areas. Feeling of the security is required. Multidisciplinary education towards women's holistic development is sometimes possible only in women university. This is a paradox which I'm talking about, but this is a fact as well. More community outreach with linkages is possible with only women universities. Challenges of women and rural universities and colleges. See, when we are talking only about women university, we are targeting only 50%. Then you would say, why do you want to go? That I addressed right at the beginning, and there are many more reasons why there should be only women universities. But since there is only a population, 50% population, then the accreditation needs to be different. Criteria 1 needs to be differently addressed, and many other criteria need to be worked out appropriately. Most of the women learners from the low socio-economic strata only go for these institutions. It's not the elite ones, because then they can go to any institutions and they can go anywhere. But the women who cannot go anywhere, they prefer these institutions. Most of the women learners are first or second generation learners. This is my experience as well. Most of the institutions which are associated with SNDT Women's University, where we have seen this is a fact. Other co-ed universities and colleges in the same geographical area actually attract many students, and then the number of admissions get affected because of this particular point. More dropouts or breaks in education due to more family compromises is a fact which is there. Challenges of women universities and colleges: need for more safe campuses and safety measures. That means more acts are required. Recruitment of students in the co-ed oriented market. There we need to prepare them differently. lower perception about women's college and universities. This is a general perception across in the society. Limited innovative initiatives such as hackathons. However, you would say, then who stopped you? We will talk about it in the question answer sessions. I'm just putting the facts right now. Intensive travel, frequent study tours may get compromised, and they do get compromised. The permissions are not granted. I will give you the examples when we talk about in the question answer sessions. Lengthy campus hours, odd hours sessions are compromised. We do not have the night campus works and the studies. Motivating women to participate in some programs, courses becomes difficult. Challenges of rural as well as women universities or colleges is the low academic motivation, women and rural learners. Maintaining balance between research and outreach may prove a challenge. Outreach programs are many, whereas to convert those outreach programs into projects of research becomes slightly difficult, and the time engaged in the outreach programs are far more than the actual real research projects. Fundraising through alumni donations not as successful as in co-ed. Even the mindset of women earners, they do not immediately give out the donations for their alma maters. Maintaining the balance between research and outreach may prove, this I have already mentioned. Then ground realities of women or rural institutions related to accreditation. These sentences have stories behind them. I am not talking about all those stories because of the constraint of the time. That's why I will just read these sentences. Many of you will realize that, yes, this happens, this is because of this point she is mentioning. Difficulty in getting qualified staff in the rural region. All of you know that. Many of my affiliated colleges do not have the regular faculty out there. Inadequate infrastructure and resources. Lack of accountability, no full-time principals appointed, inability to pay the salary as per the government norms, lack of innovation in pedagogy, research, etc., limited financial support from management. See, at one place, what we are talking about that we have to reach high, there is ABC, that is Academic Bank of Credits. That's why the spirit of NEP actually talks about the diversity, talks about multidisciplinary, talks about holistic learning. At the same time, there has to be some parity because we want the students to go from one institution to another at a regional level, at the national level, and at global level as well. That's why we talked about QS ranking, we talked about national ranking. But what about those who do not even have the basic level, probably in the binary systems? If they are brought into, then these things probably will be taken care of, and many of the malpractices which are actually happening will be phased out probably. I'm not talking about the results, I'm just putting the situation. Lack of awareness among stakeholders for accreditation. No favorable mindset for of stakeholders for accreditation. Fear of accreditation is a fact. High accreditation fees is something which has been discussed with us. Even in the meeting with the ministry, this was discussed. Few points of national and state level policies less aligned with rural and women realities. This is something to be discussed. Connection of power and accreditation. Somebody said it's not connected, but it is. In NIRF presentation, he mentioned it. Lack of transparency in accreditation process. We all know. What I mean by this is that all those who are going for the accreditation need to be taken, rigorous training needs to be done for them. And as it was done and practice started in AICTE, maybe completely online and very selected physical visits, or otherwise complete training of the trainers who are going for accreditation. academic support of leading national level, state level organizations such as NCERT for leadership development. Then rigorous faculty training, which has been already mentioned, incentives for research, consultancy and paper publications, promoting research journals in regional languages. Lots of good work is being done at the rural areas. Like we talked about Vidya Shakti in the previous session. And in that, such projects, if identified and if the journals are taken out for those publishing the work which is being done in that, but they will be in the regional languages, because many national education policy promotes the regional language, study in the regional language. Then there is a need to have the regional language journals. But these journals, if their citation has to be increased, will have to be translated in English so that they become available for larger number of public, so that citations of these regional language journals will increase in considerably. Or otherwise, one nation, one data, when we talk about, probably a data journal where we have the complete data of the publications and the collection, sort of outreach work done, and the data collected through various projects will be available at certain website, and through that the data will be further taken up. Moreover, the citations will also increase when we have faith amongst ourselves also. We don't have to look for the foreign journals and the languages or the people, scientists, to quote them and do in our research work. We will have our own people who will be cited by we all together. That also probably will help us. Activities for overall development of women learners, linkages with industries and NGOs, academic, on-job training, financial support, etc., which is a very common thing, leadership training of faculty, which has already been mentioned, more policies for women learners. They have peculiar requirements, and these peculiar requirements and the reasons and the flexible timings probably will have to be addressed. New policies for women organizations, special schemes for women learners, experts engagement in curricula, design, interactions with learners, advisory bodies, fundraising through various sources, financial social schemes for women, and improving IT infrastructure subsidies for internet. If the rural India is IT integrated and subsidized appropriately, internet is there, then probably even many of us have got the such schemes where we can reach them and make them have education. Then measures, appropriate process of monitoring mechanism, state-wise flexibility in accreditation process. One small example, in Maharashtra government had taken out a notice that there should not be any student council, and none of the universities had a student council. So most of us, we lacked those marks in Maharashtra, where student council was given some marking. So such kind of alignments probably will have to be worked out. There's a rigorous implementation of schemes like Parisa Sparsha. This is one of the schemes of the government of Maharashtra, wherein we have a mentor-mentee scheme. There is every district, we have to identify an institution which is doing well and is accredited, and that will cater to and mentor to 10 other institutions and promote them, and the government pays for that. Designing rewards, incentives, waiving of subsidizing accreditation fees, waiving or subsidizing accreditation fees, then reflection of self-employment and the placement data. This is very important. If somebody can ask me question afterwards on this, because I have to finish my presentation. This I did for my architecture college also, where previously I was working, because self-employment probably was not getting reflected into the data of placement. Institutions' freedom to determine the benchmark, which is there in binary now, considering intangible outcomes of the education, not only job. Education is not for only industry connect. Defining the definition, redefining the definition of what is industry and allowing us to have those, putting our institutions there, considering consideration of contextual realities of quality parameters, rural and urban, and articulation of state benchmarks with the national objectives. National objectives understood, and then accordingly if we define our things. This is my last slide, and I'm happy that schemes of government of Maharashtra recently free education for all women who are economically weak has been declared. There is a scheme of School Connect to propagate what is national education policy, and we have to go to all rural institutions. College Connect and Parisparsha, that is hand-holding of the colleges, which I have already mentioned. There are many more things which can be discussed, but during our question answer sessions. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ujjwala. इनफैक्ट उज्जवल भविष्य के लिए हम बार बार बात करते हैं अंत्योदय की, तो इस डाइवर्सिटी, डिफरेंट एरियाज, रिमोट रीजन, उनकी चैलेंजेस के बारे में बताया कि उनको कैसे एड्रेस किया जाए। और बाइनरी एक्रेडिटेशन में एक इम्पॉर्टेंट पैरामीटर रखा गया है जिसके नाम है सिचुएटेडनेस। डिपेंडिंग ऑन व्हाट सिचुएशन यू आर इन, देयर आर मार्क्स विच आर गिवन फॉर सच काइंड ऑफ institutions. I am sure we are taking care of that. With this, we come to the end of panel discussion. I wanted to ask some questions to them and then throw open to the audience, but I think I'm not doing that because time is already running out. So if there is anyone who wants to ask, okay.
I'm Professor Prabhat Ranjan, right now Vice Chancellor of D.Y. Patil International University in Pune. I've had the fortune of studying in Gurukul School, IIT, Berkeley, and so on. I've seen a variety of systems. One of the points, I had many questions, I'll just focus on one point. Professor Rajendra Kumar showed the data. Many of the US universities have very poor marks for faculty-student ratio as compared to Indian science. Now, when I went to Berkeley, I had 1,000 students in one class. One faculty were teaching and 20, 25 of us were teaching assistants. Obviously, in the Indian system, it will not get good marks. But this is a concept of team teaching. Why we should not consider this aspect in Indian education system, which is very, very important. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll answer two different things. See, if you look into the data, what has happened 2020-21, I'm making some political incorrect estimate, but let me make that. It's being recorded anyway. See, some 2-3 years back, because of the ranking in QS ranking, there was 20% weightage to student faculty ratio, 20% weightage to citations per faculty. So at that time, people were very careful in not reporting large number of faculty, because if they report large number of faculty to improve their student faculty ratio, because of that, the citations per faculty used to go down. But now, I don't know why they have changed it. They have given 10% weightage to student faculty ratio and 20% weightage to citations per faculty. So, but obvious is that now faculty's numbers of all these institutes have come down significantly. I don't want to comment on that, but it has come down so that this number can go up. So this is one of the reasons why in recent past you see even Purdue has been gradually reducing the faculty count, which I'm sure in data will not be like that. So, but they are doing it because it looks better in this particular number. But no, that is one aspect. But the second aspect which you are talking about, I have also done, studied abroad in North America. So I'll tell you, there it is very regular to teach 300, 400, 500 students. Actually, 40,000, 50,000 is the minimum number of a student they teach. Unlike us where we have 5,000, 6,000 undergraduate students. I'm talking about 40, 50,000 of undergraduate students. So their classes are 600, 700 regularly. There will be 10 to 12 TAs. I have done multiple TAs duties. But most of these are basically, I don't know, they don't bother about these students. Many of these. So I'll tell you, I have done TAC. People sitting at the back will be playing games, and I'm not supposed to tell them that why you are playing game, why you're not listening to the teacher. This is a reality in most of the US universities where students, they are taken just because they earn money because of that. So I don't know whether that could be replicated here in India or not, because here we give lot more importance to teaching. And most of our Indian institutes, IISc or IIT, we take a lot of pride in making a class a smaller size so that we basically connect to student one-to-one. Now, whether that is right or wrong, I'll not comment on that, but this is the difference between these two kind of institutes which I've seen.
Anyone else?
Thank you very much. Yeah, we are, progressing very well in the NRF. I have been, working for it since its substance from 2015 or 16. But I just learned from the KUS or even from the Times Higher Education that the ranking is not just that 1 year you get it. It should be the consistently growing on. So we can, in NRF, we can maybe think of that. We can take the record of last 3 years, right? Maybe we can do that. Something we can do in that direction. 3 years, yeah. Yeah, but I have seen somewhere some universities having publication in 1 year 100, and second we are talking they have next year they have 1,000 publication, and all coming through the collaborations. So that we should check, sir.
There are some challenges which we are anyway trying to address in the near future. Yeah. Anyone else? नहीं है तो फिर मैं पूछ लूंगा इनको. कोई नहीं पूछ रहा है तो इनको मैं पूछूंगा. किसको?
Thank you, sir. You mentioned about the qualitative and quantitative parameters. And in the qualitative parameters, which you, maybe subjective parameter, that was perception. And you mentioned about the MCDM techniques. That prompted me to ask you whether is it possible to have FMCDS technique applicable to the perception? Can we apply that?
I want that perception should be made more granular and let there be many stages into that. And then in that stage, someone should be data driven, someone should be the opinion driven. So then what happens, the weightage of people just only submitting their things can be minimized. So therefore, it should be divided into 4 stages or 5 stages, and then the impact of only simply taking, knowing you or not knowing you will be minimized actually, sir. So first thing to be done like this. And second thing, we can build up hierarchy, sir. Like say, you know very well in the ASP and all the models, no? We have different layers, and that layers interact with each other also. So similarly, in this case also, in perception mapping, we can do this kind of exercise.
Thank you very much.
One of our panelists talked about the regional journal, I think. So basically, the country like Japan, China, and other countries, they did teaching in their own language. Even they publish in the international standard journals like IEEE and all. So having a regional journal is rational. See, once you can do one thing, publish in a standard, international standards, then translate into regional language and circulate among them. Okay. Otherwise, who will cite your regional? I mean, it would be a kind of a frog in a coop, something like that.
Should I answer?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I'm not talking about copying or translating the international standard journals. I'm talking about having the standards at the regional level, which will be accepted at the international level. We at our rural areas at some point do have a work which is a real hardcore work, which is of that standard, which probably will not be possible for those who are working on that project to write in English. So why can't they write in their own languages, but someone else with the authority of language will translate it into English for other people to know that such a good work is going on. And that is what I mean by regional languages. And I strongly propagate this, that we should have very good standard regional research journals available, and we should look into it very seriously if we want to implement national education policy to its core spirit.
Good evening. Actually, we know that in NIRF, most of the people saying that the data are not physically verified. So my question is that whether the NIRF data are physically verified or not. If not, then why we are giving so much importance to NIRF ranking?
In fact, in NIRF ranking, one of the most important thing is about research publications. From Scopus as well as Web of Science, we get authentic record and everything is verified. Also in terms of, sometimes you say that we have done so many consultancy projects or we have received so much funding. We ask a lot of searching, probing questions to identify whether the data is correct or not. It is not that we will be able to physically go visit and investigate 6,000 odd institutions whose data is available. But wherever we find there are likely outliers and very clearly visible, very, precaution is taken to see that the data is accurate. That's what we do, and therefore NIRF has its importance.
In fact, I would like to add, there is one more, kind of a safeguard mechanism. I don't know whether many of you know, NIRF data is also now used by income tax department. So if you inflate your research consultancy funding and show high, they'll ask you, why did you not pay GST and all of that? So there are people watching.
Secondly, all the data is required to be transparently posted on the website, and any other competing institution can see it, and if there is a challenge, we will investigate it further. And some of them are debarred also from getting into a ranking system. So I think there are checks and balances which are in place. Okay. So we will close the session. I wanted to ask some questions, but I think we have crossed the limit. People have been there since morning, so I thank panelists as well as...
One more, just a minute. So NIRF is the only ranking mechanism where the data is put transparently, not in any of those QS or THE.
That's what I'm saying.
So for all of you, you can contest. The only ranking mechanism where we can contest.
Okay. That's what I said. Contesting is possible. That's all transparently available on the website. Okay. Thank you very much for both audience as well as the panelists. And it has been a wonderful time with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you all the speakers for their informative presentations and providing lots of food for thought. It was indeed an insightful session. And special thanks to Secretary HE for gracing the session with his presence. Thank you, sir.